Welcome back to Gray Area. I'm your host, Kennedy Simmerman, and today we have a very special guest with us. Hailing from San Francisco, this 28-year-old visionary is one of the leading frontrunners of house music. Known for defying norms within the industry, his sound spans the entirety of the musical spectrum. Both of his albums even hit #1 on the iTunes dance chart. So please join me in welcoming American DJ and producer Spencer Brown. Yay!
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pretend audience claps. So thank you so much for joining us, Spencer, and we'll get right into it. So I want to start from the very beginning. It's pretty safe to say that you were born to make music. I mean, you began learning drums and other various instruments at only 2 years old. So first question is, what sparked your interest in music at such a young age?
Honestly, I'm an only child, so I was always just kind of trying to find fun around the house, and I was banging into my mom's pots and pans, and she was getting pretty frustrated. So they got me like a little mini drum set for my second birthday, I think, maybe third. I don't know, somewhere really long ago, and I played drums every single day, and it just became my life. My earliest memories are just sitting listening to my dad's tapes and CDs in the living room. Music's always been my #1 passion for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So how about growing up in the Bay Area? How did that environment influence you as a musician and as an artist?
So I spent half my life in California and then half my life in Dallas. So I got to see almost like the two very, very different ways of life, ways of thinking, and I think it was amazing to get both perspectives, because it allowed me to have a lot more free thinking than if I grew up in an environment where pretty much everyone would kind of believe
definitely
certain thing.
Yeah, having more experiences definitely opens you up more in learning different things, I'm sure. So but let's switch gears about EDM. So how did you first discover EDM and dance music, and what about the genre made you fall for it?
Let's think. I was really into producing hip hop when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old. I was making a bunch of hip hop beats and stuff like that. But then I found early dubstep, which was very reminiscent of hip hop, like it had a similar beat. And this is like 2008, 2009. I was in eighth grade, ninth grade around then. I was about 13. And I really fell in love with it because you could just make everything on the computer and you didn't really need anything else.
What DAW did you use like back then? I don't know if it's the same now, but
I was in Logic still.
Logic,
I'm still in Logic. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I use. Cool.
a long time ago is GarageBand. And I actually have like this mixer that I had where I would record into the mixer, so it wasn't even a DAW. It was like all on a
nice, yeah.
No computer involved, which is pretty crazy. That's how I was starting my first recordings. But yeah, it's then it was Logic in 8th grade. 7th, 8th grade, my friend switched to Logic, so I'm like, oh, I got to switch to Logic. So I
jump on the bandwagon,
like stuck with it. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. And so yeah, the dubstep, the early dubstep really inspired me to make electronic music. I started sneaking into local shows when I was 14. Underage, should not have been there, but it inspired me. And I learned a lot. And, yeah, and it was really really inspiring to see, you know, people coming together and listening to music. And back then, you know, it wasn't that popular, so it was maybe like 50 people, 100 people at the shows.
Sure.
But it was cool to be a part of a scene. And then once I found house music, I was just like, all right, this is more me.
This is my calling.
It's authentic. It's authentic. Yeah.
So before house music, or maybe it was house music already, but what would you say like your first big break, first gig? Was that involved with dubstep and house? Like,
back when I made dubstep, I actually had a lot of the big dubstep guys playing out my music when I was like 14. I had like
wow. Little 14-year-old. Wow.
Yeah, Rusko was playing my music, Bass Nectar, but like I know there's a situation now, but like they were kind of all supporting my music, and that was really cool for me as a 14-year-old to be getting my music played out. But I really worked hard in high school on my house music, like progressive house. I really loved that Swedish sound. I loved Axwell, Avicii, Prids, stuff like that. And then when Avicii played my track on his podcast, I think that was like a major point where I'm like, okay, like if Avicii's playing my track,
Avicii, yeah,
then
he's the god. Like, you can get
yeah,
better
then
than that. Like,
maybe I need to kind of really pursue this house
yeah,
music.
that was
Yeah,
your sign. Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. Well, rest in peace, Avicii. But
yeah.
thank
Rest
you,
in peace.
Avicii, for blessing us with Spencer Brown. So awesome. So we're going to turn the page to your interview with Billboard from a few years
Mhm.
ago. So, these past few years, especially, you've really blossomed into one of the most influential dance artists in the game. But your journey wasn't necessarily a smooth breeze. So, like I said, let's talk about your interview. So, what was your breaking point that made you decide to come out publicly?
Um, I would say it was it. It just felt right. There was like a piece of my story that was missing, that all my family and my friends knew that I'm gay, but the some fans knew, I would just kind of talk about it or whatever,
Hmm.
but I'm like, you know what? I have a voice here. I have a platform to make a change. Dance music has always been my safe haven since I was a teenager. As I said, when I was sneaking into parties
Hmm.
and stuff, it's always my happy place. And you know what? It's like I just really think it's important for me to come out publicly so I can be,
Fully be
whether it's an
yourself.
idol for people, for like someone to look up to, for people who are really struggling or whatever, because I never had that. I never had someone to like look up to, who was gay, and I just really wanted to be that figure in someone's life who likes my music and maybe was struggling, and also just being authentic to myself and to my music. I think the more authentic you can be, the better your music. And
Sure.
it's an ongoing process. I think every year you learn more about yourself as you mature. I'm 28 now, and I know a lot more about myself than when I was 25, and I'm sure when I'm 30 and
Hmm.
35, I'll know a lot more about myself than right now at 28. So I think it's an ongoing learning process. But that was a major step that I really had to
Yeah,
do.
for sure. Yeah. So that actually ties into my next question. So, what do you wish you could have told yourself when you were struggling with your sexuality, and advice for those, like you said, who are maybe struggling today?
Um, it it doesn't matter. Like, it's
Mm,
okay. You will be okay, is what I wish I could have told myself. But also I think, because it feels like it's the end of the world when you're dealing with something
for
like that,
sure.
or at least for me. But it you psych yourself out. It's all mental, at the end of the day. Also, I think a really important lesson of that whole thing, and moving forward, is what other people think doesn't matter. Like, if someone wants to hate on my sexuality or my music or whatever, like, that's okay. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
To each
good, but
their
it's
own.
just like,
Yeah. I
I'm just not
mean,
going to listen. I'm just not going
they're
to
missing
listen.
out. So,
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to what the haters want
right.
to tell me or whatever. And even if I see some hate messages and stuff, it's just like, you can laugh it off. I don't
Yeah.
really.
Right.
It's like, don't care about what other people think. I think that's like the most important thing I could have told myself in a past life, and it's something,
Yeah.
again, I'm learning still every day.
Yeah, I
No one's
know.
perfect, but just don't care. Like, who cares what someone else thinks? Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
affect my life at all. That doesn't affect what I do at all. That doesn't affect my music at all. I
Mhm.
don't care. Like, I'm gonna do my thing, and good energy comes to you, and you appreciate the good energy. And when bad energy comes along, you can either
Yeah.
laugh or just move on, like,
Yeah,
whatever.
because I feel like, especially at that age too. I mean, I feel like all of us, in high school were so conscious about what other people think, and I remember my sister, my parents, when you're older, this isn't gonna matter, like no one's gonna care. And now that I'm older, they're right. Like I don't care about what other people think, so it's
the older
definitely
you get the older
the
you
less
get,
you think.
the less you care
For
about what other
sure, for
people think.
sure. Definitely. So it's, in addition to representing the LGBTQ plus community, you're also an advocate for breaking musical barriers. So your sound is really diverse. It's kind of hard to even classify by a singular genre. So how would you describe your sound to someone who maybe hasn't listened to you before?
I would say it's a progressive journey through, um house, deep, techno, trance, just a little bit of everything kind of mingled together into a progressive journey, is what I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have to
But it's all
agree.
progressive. It's all progressive at the end
Yeah.
of it. When I say progressive, I'm talking about building a set. So if you come to one of my sets, it's going to start lower energy and go through various motions and eventually build into something that's higher energy. Um, I'm not really the biggest fan of kind of sticking to one sound in a set. I think the best DJs like that I look up to are able to blend a lot of styles and make it so seamless that it's almost, even if you have a jarring moment in the set, I think it's actually really nice to reset a room if you do it in a classy way, if that makes sense.
Right?
But
Yeah.
all the DJs I look up to play all sorts of styles, and
Hmm.
I like to do the same thing
Yeah, for
because
sure. I mean,
no, it's like
recalling
I
my
don't.
memory, yeah, recalling a memory when I saw you live, I remember like, it'd be a solemn, progressive, and then all of a sudden you would switch pages and then the crowd be freaking out, so it really keeps the crowd on their feet and makes the whole set just overall very exciting.
I think the
Um,
most important thing to consider is contrast when I'm DJing, because I'm
yeah.
DJing on the fly. I don't really know how people are going to react, but I do know that contrasts are the best way to get people staying around. If you have something, whether it's dark and light, very groove driven, into something more melodically driven, something uh very with a nice vocal followed by a few tracks without vocals. I think just
Hmm.
contrast, if you can through the set create contrast, then you're going to keep people engaged a lot longer than
Yeah,
if you're
so it
playing
sounds
some
like
monotone.
it does sound like by having a diverse style, there are a lot of positives out of it. But can you think of any challenges you might have faced with having such a diverse sound?
I would say people don't know how to classify my music
Sure.
sometimes, and that's okay. But like when it comes to lineups, sometimes it's hard to kind of fit into a stage. Like if at a festival, say
Hmm.
they're doing a like a techno stage with very hard techno, or a main stage like a EDM stage, and then like a trance stage or something. It's like I just don't really fit any of
You fit
those
all of
sometimes.
them
So
though.
yeah, but we it's a case by case thing. But it's
Sure.
always funny at festivals. I've played like the deep house stage, I've played the techno stage, I've played the main stage. I've kind of
Love
I
it.
can, but I can morph my set into making more sense in that setting. Like I would
Yeah.
not, if I'm playing at a deep house stage with other people who are playing really deep, I'm not going to go up there
Right.
and play my hardest techno. Like that's
Sure
just
thing. Yeah,
that's
but
rude.
just a disgrace now, but you're definitely a jack of all trades. And with that, I think that's a perfect segue into your most recent announcement. So you released music on labels like In June and Deep, Last Night on Earth, and Factory 93, but you've never really been bound to a single organization. So ready to take on the next step of your career, you've decided to branch out on your own with the launch of your own label. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Woo. I wish I had like a button that like had like crowd clap, like crowd
Right,
claps,
yeah.
so what is your new label called and how'd you come up with the name?
It is called Divine. It's the name is multifaceted. I think divine is a word that I am really drawn to in not at all in a religious sense, but I am a spiritual person. I believe in like energy, like good energy, spirituality, and I think anyone can really connect on that. But
Definitely.
the main reason is like I want the music to be divine on the label. Like I want that to define the music. Like where
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to be putting out music that is like, oh, this is pretty cool or whatever. Like I want every release to be like a phenomenal, something that I would play out all the time, like something of extremely high quality. I'm not going to be doing that many releases. I'm not going to be pumping out multiple releases a week, at least right now. I'm
Hmm.
really going to be focusing on finding the very best music that I've made and of my friends, and keep it very, very exclusive, very high quality. And also divine is a word that ties deep into LGBT roots, and I thought that was a nice link as well. And I just felt like it just, and you can't really brand divine because that's just a word. It's so we put a second I in there,
Okay. Just
and
spice it up a little bit.
yeah, just to be a little more personal.
Nice. Yep.
To be honest, this is like kind of random. I was during the pandemic when we were coming up with the whole concept and everything. I was playing a lot of video games, and people would like make their names like put two eyes and stuff like on
Yeah.
their gamer tags and stuff. So I was like, oh, that would be kind of funny to put it in here. But it is a serious thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Ooh.
that's why we put in a second eye because I was inspired by that.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, who else like who did not play video games all of quarantine? Let's be real.
I know, right?
So what goals are you trying to accomplish by having your own label?
I just want full creative freedom of whatever I want to do. And so my first release had an 18-minute track on it called 18-minute loop. And there's no label that exists right now that would want to put that kind of thing out, because it's just, and honestly, like the DSPs, and I say DSP, I mean like Apple Music, Spotify, stuff like that. Their algorithms and their editors are not going to support an 18-minute track, but I know putting that out, I'm already aware of that, and so I know it's not going to like quote stream very well or whatever. But I just honestly, for me, creative freedom is more important than catering to what people are looking for, and that's one major reason why I'm
Yeah.
starting the label, because I want to do my vision from start to finish. And there, when you release with the label, you sometimes have to maybe change your vision slightly to fit the label, which I totally understand because it's their label. You know,
Yeah.
I would do the same thing. You know, if someone submitted a track that is almost what I'm looking for, I would give feedback. You know, so that's
Yeah, sure.
natural. But when I have a vision of a track or an EP or artwork or any of that, I want to be able to do it from A to Z. I want to be able to market it myself. I want to be able to publish it ourselves. I want to be able to get it in syncs ourselves. I want to do everything, you know,
Hmm.
because there's a freedom. It does cost a lot more money, you know, it's an investment. It's an investment. So, but I'm ready, you know. I'm grateful I have a fan base, and so it's not like I'm blindly doing this. It's like there's people who want to consume my music. So I'm grateful for
Yeah,
that.
and I mean, you've put years of work into this, and it's just so inspiring knowing that artists like you exist, that like, you don't do it for the clout, you don't do it for, for what might sound good, but it's about what you think sounds good and what you are passionate about. So I'm really excited that you've released this label. And who are some artists that you maybe dream of signing to your label?
Um, I don't know if I could I don't want to give up too much,
That's okay.
but it's mainly going to be a platform for myself, to be honest.
Okay.
And then I have a few people who, it's just honestly just music that really impresses me, like really
Yeah.
blows me away, that fits the sound that I'm looking for, that I could play my sets. That's all I'm really looking for. I'm not really like, if I get sent music all the time from my friends and from up and coming producers, and I have a big Discord community, and we do bi-weekly demo feedback, and there's some music in there that really blows me away. And it's just like when I come across music, I'm like, I would love to support this, you know, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that it's of the highest quality. So it's like I
Hmm.
want to make sure that number one goal for me is making sure that I am fully engaged on all the A&Ring of choosing what gets released, what doesn't get released, and why, and that there's a story behind the music too. I'm not just going to release um a track from someone and just like, hey, here's a track, you know, whatever. It's
Yeah.
like there's got to be a
Got to
bigger
be a
picture, a
meaning
bigger
behind it.
story.
Yeah.
So some of the artists I'm looking at, there's some from like other countries and stuff who don't really have a fan base in America right now, and I would love to
Hmm.
help them, you know,
Yeah.
get more fans in America, because there's so much talent around the world.
Awesome. So, along with the official launch of your new label comes its inaugural double-sided release. We have Forbidden Flow and then 18-minute loop. So, before we talk about those songs individually, can you describe what your writing process was like when producing both of these tracks?
Yeah, we'll start with Forbidden Flow. I remember that was towards the end of lockdown. That was the beginning of 2021, before we could go party again. I think this is
Mhm.
in January, February, something like that. One of my buddies came over and we were just hanging out in the studio, just chilling. And then I ended up chopping up some vocal I had on my computer, made an interesting pattern, wrote some chords. We were just kind of hanging out, like playing video games, relaxing. I made a groove. I chopped up some other groove elements from some other stuff I had lying around, and then I didn't even know that a track was made. We were just hanging out. It was so casual that I didn't even realize that we had made a track, you know. And
Mhm.
we were just hanging out, and then at the end of the night, I just like went to listen to the project, and he's like, yeah, this is
Oh my
like
God,
really
sounds
decent.
pretty
And I was
good.
like, yeah, this is pretty sick. So it was a really low pressure, but the best music I think is written in low pressure environments.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that's how
sure.
that came about. And then 18-minute loop was I was driving a lot between Los Angeles and San Francisco on during lockdown, during like peak lockdown, because my house is in San Francisco, but I was staying in LA, so I was constantly having to go back and forth to get stuff. And on one of my one night stints in San Francisco, trying to grab some stuff like my DJ stuff or something to drive back down LA, and I was just staying in my room for the night, I just opened up Logic and I just kind of I remember it took maybe like an hour or two. I was just like, did a jam session. I made that little progression. I thought it sounded kind of cool. I recorded myself messing with the parameters of the synth and arranging it live. So I did in one sitting, I made the whole track, and then, but I didn't even think that was a track that I would release because it was long, but it was inspired by the I-5, which is the highway between San Francisco and LA. It's a very, very monotonous, just there's nothingness. It's not on the coast, it's just in the middle of the farmland. There's just nothing on either side, and I was just driving that so much that it was, the original title of the track was called Highway 5, but I changed it because I thought 18-minute loop was funny. and yeah, so I would listen to that track on my drives, and I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. And then I was gonna actually just release it on the blockchain because I was like, who's gonna sign an 18-minute loop and then, or 18-minute track? And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put that as the second track on my first EP because I don't care. And anyone who wants to hate, yeah, exactly. So I didn't think that would be kind of the crowd favorite, but it ended up actually being the more favorite of the two tracks for the fans. And John Digweed was playing it out all in Argentina every night, and that was really crazy seeing those videos. He's one of my idols, someone I look up to, so that was really cool. Some other great support on that, and that was Above and Beyond played it. I'm just kind of like, it's just, you never know what someone's going to resonate with, you know. That's what I realized. You think you're going to put out like this hit, and then people, like, you know, maybe don't respond as well to it, and then you just put out some random thing that took an hour, and then people are like wow, hyped about it. So I don't, that's why I think it's important to just put out music that you love and that you comes from the heart, because if you think too much about sales, it really diminishes the quality.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I mean, music's all about creativity and passion, you know, and it's tough that we're in an industry that those things are important, like sales and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, music is music, and we do it because we love it.
But at the end of the day, if you run a label, then it doesn't matter as much because no one's yelling at you if you don't get the sales. But
right. You're your own manager and everything. Yeah, that's awesome.
But the second release is a little bit more, I haven't really talked about it publicly, but the second release is slightly, I wouldn't say, it's not commercial. It's just, it's its own thing, but it has vocals on it. Different than the first release. It's some amazing vocals we recorded during lockdown.
Do you have an idea of when that'll come out, or is it still TBD?
As soon as I finish the version 159 mix down.
All right.
I'm almost done. I think I'm done. I'm going to send it off to mastering soon. So hopefully maybe a month or two, hopefully.
Nice. Yeah. All right, that's exciting. We have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Keep the people coming.
And there's also 80 something other tracks that I made during lockdown sitting on my hard drive. 80. I made about 80 tracks. Maybe 100, maybe close to 100. So I don't really know what to even release at this point. I just have a ton of music. It's like where I feel like a month or two where I just couldn't write anything, and I just was I was worthless. I was not doing anything. I was just literally waking up and just like playing video games all day because I couldn't write music. And then there'd be like a month where I was like made 20 tracks, 30 tracks in a month, you know, a track a day. So I don't know, it's just I'm looking at my library and I'm just like, do I really have like 100 tracks that are just kind of like ready to go? But
ready to go.
It's always better to have way too much music and choose the best ones than not have music to release. So.
Yeah, and I was gonna say a track a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Cool. So with Forbidden Flow, it really showcases your ability to create an emotional journey through music. I mean, at first, listeners are greeted with a dark, ominous techno track, and it transitions into a softer, progressive vibe, obviously an area that you thrive in. So what message are you trying to convey to listeners through that story?
Music needs a yin and yang, and I talked in depth about this with Patrice Belmel, who's someone I really look up to. And when there's yin with no yang, when there's light with no dark, it can maybe feel a bit cheesy or not as emotional as if you had the yang in there. So I think
Yeah.
almost everything I make, my goal is to have, even if it's a really happy light song, there should be some sort of darkness in there too, because
Yeah.
my life, I live a very happy, I'm a very happy person. I live a great life,
Hmm.
but there's definitely dark periods and darkness from upbringing that you can't just sort of ignore. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to have dark and light in music.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of my senior year quote back in high school. Life is like a piano. The white keys represent happiness, the black keys represent sadness, but at the end of the day, all of the keys make music.
Yeah, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. Can't believe that's still ingrained in my memory there. And then the last thing, so we'll talk about 18-minute loop, which, as we know, clocks in at precisely 18 minutes long. So, as you said, when you were writing it, it kind of just all came out.
It took an
But
hour.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
were there any challenges with producing a track?
not at all.
Yeah,
No, it
wow.
was the easiest. It was
Easier than any other track you've written? Maybe that not a bold
um
statement, but
one of the easiest.
yeah, one of, yeah.
In fact, I would say when I started developing the idea, when I was back in Los Angeles, I was taking the project and I was actually mixing it a lot more and adding some other chords and some other things. And I just felt like it was really degrading the quality of what I had that 1 hour that I made the track. Everything I kept on adding just was taking away. And I think I was living by the saying, as much as necessary, as little as possible. And I feel like
Mm.
when I was adding more stuff, it wasn't necessary. And then all that was left was, I think it was like 7 channels, that was like 18 minutes. And I was a little bit afraid that maybe people would be bored or whatever. But after listening to it enough myself, I was like, you know what? I can actually listen to the whole thing and not get
Yeah.
bored. So I'm sure some other people would too. So I just put it out. I just don't. I didn't think too much.
Yeah. But you
Yeah,
said
it's
that
like I
like it's getting
overproduced it. I
you
overproduced it, and then I went back to version one, and that's the version.
oh
That's the version you hear is the first version.
that
So
and
yeah,
you also said like that that song's kind of getting more not attention, but what do you say about like how it was getting like more
it's
people were
just
liking it or
people are just hyped about it. I just
yeah.
get a lot of messages, and
Yeah.
it's getting no support from as expected from Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. But
Yeah,
I just
who
I
needs
just
them?
I mean, it's good. It's a good discovery platform, but at the end of the day, good music that reaches, like something that really deeply connects with fewer people, I would argue is more powerful than something that is extremely popular
Yeah.
and slightly connects with a lot of people.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's a good
Yeah.
mindset, because if you deeply connect with someone, they're going to come to your shows, they're going to come support,
Mhm.
buy merch,
Of
and be
course.
longer term supporters than someone who is really excited about the hype of something,
Mhm.
and then the hype is gone in a couple of years and they move on to the next
Yeah,
thing.
I
So
mean,
I'm a firm believer of that.
yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, if it sounds good, people will listen, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, I think that is a great way to end the first portion of our interview. So, I just have a few concluding questions. What excites you the most about the future of dance music?
That's a
You can take a minute. You
it's
can
an
take a minute.
interesting one. What excites me the most? I think just that people are open-minded. That maybe when I got into it, people were a little more genre, like it needs to be this, it needs to be that. But I think
Sure.
now you have you have trance fans going to the techno stage, main stage people wandering over to the deep stage. There's just kind of people are a lot more open-minded. That's what excites me, that people are willing to give things that are maybe a little off the beaten path a chance.
Yeah, I definitely can agree. I mean, by going to shows, even just in New York, like, I'll see some people that I know at a dubstep show, and then next weekend at a trance show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And last but not least, any upcoming shows for our lovely fans to see you live? Hopefully see some of these tracks played live.
We have quite a bit, I think. We have for the Diviine tour, I think we're doing Dallas, Hamilton, Ontario, Denver, Boston, and one more. Where are we going? It's an intimate show tour. I'm also opening for Eric Prydz at Echo Stage in DC, which should be a really nice one. I'm honored that their team reached out, and it's really good because he's someone I've looked up to for a while. So that's amazing. It's going to be a good one.
I'm gonna have to add that to my calendar. I've actually never seen Eric Prydz live before, so might have to kill two birds with one stone and see both of you guys.
Yeah, it'll be a fun time. I'll definitely for that one play a little bit on the more progressive, deeper side, just to like, for example, when I opened for Deadmau5 at Echo Stage, I could play very, very hard. I played like a lot of techno because he straight up told me, I don't care what you play. Like you can play literally whatever you
want. Typical Deadmau5, I don't care.
yeah, he just doesn't care. He's like, I'm just gonna do my thing, play whatever you want. So I played techno, and he was there and he was jamming out. So that was cool. But for Eric, because it's the first time I'm playing with him, I'm gonna make sure to be respectful. So I'm not gonna play as hard as I would if it's a headline.
Yeah, I gotta respect the king, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's just respect for if you're playing, or I'll contact his manager and see, what are the boundaries. I think it's important, because I don't really, if someone's playing 128 techno and I'm trying to start my set at 122, it's like a little bit jarring.
Definitely. Awesome. All right. So now everybody's favorite part of the gray area interview, the speed round. I need another like sound effect thing. All right. So we have 10 questions here. And they aren't going to be difficult. So we'll just start it right away. What is your favorite instrument to play?
Drums.
Favorite country you've performed in?
Oh my goodness. That's a really, really hard one.
One of your favorites.
I mean, it's cool going to Australia for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
On the other side of the world. Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Favorite type of music to listen to outside of dance music?
I pretty much only listen to dance music at the moment. It's just like, but just a little bit weird, off the beaten path music is what I'd like. Stuff that's way more obscure than I would play.
Like experimental kind of stuff.
Weird, yeah, I like weird stuff.
Weird. All right. What artist is your biggest inspiration or artist?
DJ and producing. That's an important thing. For producing, I would say Guy J is my biggest, and then for DJing, I would say at the moment probably Patrice Baumel. I've been to many of his shows and I'm just completely floored every time I go.
Favorite karaoke song?
Party in the USA.
Oh my god, that's a good one. All right. All right. If you could only save 2 pieces of gear from your studio, which would you choose?
I don't use that much gear, so I would have my laptop and headphones because that's what I pretty much use on almost everything. Yeah.
Love it. All right. One of your favorite memories on tour?
One of the best memories on tour for me was living on the bus with Above and Beyond for months across Europe, across the US. I lived on a bus for like 5 months, 4 months, something like that. A few months in the US, a few months in Europe. That was just, that whole experience was just so amazing. Play the gig, go to bed, wake up, and it's like, oh, we're in Paris. And then you get off the thing and then walk around Paris all day, like have a big dinner with the crew, and then go play the gig, drink champagne, go to bed at like 6 a.m, wake up and it's like, oh, we're in Belgium now. It's like,
Oh my
okay, cool.
gosh.
And then walk around.
Did you share like a bus with Above and Beyond, all three of them? Or did you guys like have like I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
like did you guys get sick of each other like being on the same bus? I
No,
was
no,
kidding.
it was so fun. I mean, we had
Wow.
16 people on our bus on the Europe tour. Yeah, it was really fun
Wow.
though. It was like a family. Like it was fun.
Yeah.
Like it was no one. There was no issues. There was no one sick of each other. It was just too fun. It's just
Yeah.
you're having the best time of your life with a bunch of really cool people.
Especially Above and Beyond. Like, wow, that's a dream to
That's
be
how I
on.
got to know them very well. I mean, I knew them before. Obviously, we'd
Mhm.
see each other at shows, but when you're living on a bus with someone, you
Yeah,
get to
you
know them
get real
really
close.
well. Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got two more questions. Describe your perfect show. Like, where would you want to play? Who would you want to be there? What?
um, the perfect show would be from the moment I start playing. I feel a connection with everyone in the crowd, and it's really good energy, very diverse crowd. And I'm connected to the crowd the whole time. I can take risks and I'm still connected to the crowd. They understand my risks. They understand the boundaries I'm pushing, and finish the set. And the same amount of people are there at the end that they are in the beginning. I have
Yeah,
full
right.
connection the whole time.
Aw,
That happens quite often. I'm grateful for that.
aw.
But when you feel that connection the whole time, I think it's especially on longer sets. If I'm playing like 5 hours or something, and you have a connection for 5 hours, there's something magic
Yeah,
about that. Even more than an hour or two.
definitely. And last but not least, finish this sentence. Before I die, I want to.
Oh my goodness. Before I die, I want to.
Yeah, I left this like as the last one.
Yeah. Wow. Bring uh bring as much peace and love as I possibly can
Oh,
to the world, all over the world, with music and with the voice that I can amplify.
that is a better answer than I could have expected.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, Spencer. So that will conclude our interview today.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.